Hello, everyone, and welcome to First Friday Lunch. If you have never been here before, my name is Tina Holland. I am a romance author, and every first Friday of the month, I go ahead and I go live at 11:30 Central Standard Time and talk a little bit about my personal life. I added a new topic this week, which we'll talk about, what I'm working on writing and publishing wise, and then also uh, we'll have a hot topic. And today's hot topic is going to be making time to write. And I'll tell you why. We'll lead right into that. So, personal, we are in the middle of the season. My husband and I run a crop dusting business, and we just had an open house on Tuesday, the 4th, which is also his birthday. We had some farmers come out. We celebrated his birthday, and so now we're in the season. So it'll probably be another couple weeks before we get any jobs, but one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about making time to write is because this tends to be a busy season for a lot of people, either with vacations or with like I have a graduation tomorrow, and then on Sunday I have a anniversary party. So it tends to be kind of a busy season, the month of June, and it historically has been always for us. It's also our wedding anniversary, Father's Day, those types of things. So that's kind of what's going on personal. I'm doing pretty good diabetes wise. I got a really good cocktail, but I'm not in range as much as I should be. And I got my A1C back, and it was 7.1, and it had been 6.8. So we'll be working on that over the summer, maybe more salads, more walking, all that kind of stuff. So I thought a new topic that I thought I might add is what I'm reading and watching, like what I'm reading book wise, and then also what I am watching on TV. I am reading a Scott series by Caroline Lee on digital ebook, and then I'm listening currently to Fourth Wing, which I had never read. I never read it. And I'm listening to the graphic audio version. I'll put a link down there below. So it's a lot more like listening to like a radio or a television program, because there's narration, but then there's all these sound effects and everything in the background, which is good. But it is, I usually listen to books before I go to bed, and I'll like set it to the end of the chapter in case I fall asleep or whatever. And the first night I listened to it, I think I was up until 2 a.m. because I just kept hitting yes, yes, yes. So, but when you listen to the graphic audio, it doesn't tell you what chapter you're on. I guess I kind of know because it's in the table of contents, but and there's a part 1 and a part 2, which I'm guessing must be due to the cost of producing like a single file of all this stuff. So, and I checked it out from the Fargo Library, which actually worked out pretty good. So that's what I'm reading. And then what I'm watching is we've been checking out the UK version of Ghosts, which I like, but I much more prefer the American version just because I tend to watch it a little more or whatever. So I'm going to pop over here because we have a guest. Barb is joining us once again. Hello, Barb. Hello. So yeah, that's what I'm watching. That's one thing I'm watching. And then I started rewatching old episodes of the X-Files. So when I'm not watching television like that, I usually will watch I like to watch a lot of documentaries. And so those are kind of the two things that we're watching right now, just because it's out of the watching season or whatever. So all right, well, on to writing and publishing. So I just finished, as I talked about last month, I had sent off my edits or my manuscript to my editor, and she sent it back to me, and which was fine. That it was good, but I got it back, and it needs a lot of work because she was kind of like, I think we can add like 15,000 more words here. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember, I don't know if you remember from last month, we talked a little bit about that, and I wasn't sure. I'm like, oh my God, that's going to be a lot of work. And a lot of it is not the easy work. A lot of it's like deep POV. And so that ends up being more deep POV, more backstory, those sorts of things, without like throwing it up on the page, which I used to do. And now it's kind of like, now I'm being told to do it again. and pretty early on, like, she's like, I don't know who any of these people are. If I didn't read the first book, I wouldn't know who they are. So we need to reintroduce the characters. So a lot of that will add words. So I think that'll be okay. So, but that was one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about making time to write, because I have a very busy schedule, and I'm kind of like, how do you go ahead and make time to write when you're busy, right? So some of this stuff will seem very counterintuitive, but bear with me, hang out with me. We'll get to it, right? So let's get into making time for writing. I'm going to share this screen here. Share screen. I want to share this one. All right. Okay, and I'll do the slideshow. You think I'd be on the right thing. Okay, so we're going to talk about making time to write. So like I said, I had just gotten back my edits from my editor, Sandra Suku, on How to Love a Lord, which is the sequel to How to Marry a Major. And last month, if you're interested in how this cover art came about, you can go ahead and watch last month's video, how to do your cover design, basically. And I walk through that. So my cover artist is Melody Simmons, and she does wonderful work, does a lot of romance titles, not just historical, paranormal. I think she does cozy mysteries, romantic suspense, thrillers, those types of things too. So the first thing is have a schedule. And I don't mean like line out when you're going to write. I need to know when you can't write, because whether you're a plotter or a pantser, or you're left brain or right brain, you need to know when you're not going to be able to write. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to write at that graduation tomorrow or the anniversary party on Sunday. So I know I can't do those 2 days. If you're taking vacation and you're not going to have internet, then you want to know that you can't do it those days. If you're working, like if you actually have to work, you're probably not. If you're a good employee, you're probably not going to be writing at work. but if you're like me and you were a bad employee, you might write at work. So, but you need to know when you're not going to be available to write, whether you're going to your kid's soccer game or whatever it is. Block that time out that you're not going to be able to do it. So, and then schedule, if you do like to schedule when you can, and then keep it. Just keep that date, save it. Don't schedule anything else on top of it. But that's kind of like understanding a schedule of if you want to write. If you are pantser, we'll talk about that in a minute. Understand how long a project will take. So I want to switch over to another thing here. I have remove. Come on. I hate it when I can't do anything. I'll just double check for questions over here. So nope, nothing. Okay. Okay. This is, I should have done this at the end. All right. Share screen. And then, so what I wanted to share here is I track all my writing, like what I do. And if you don't do this, I highly recommend it, because it will kind of give you an idea of how long something takes you. So like the very first thing, this is like me just throwing up pages for, or I had already started the outline. So that was like 7 minutes or whatever. But the outline is, I follow a template, and it basically tells me the key scenes that I need to put in the manuscript. So I will follow that. And then I write down too, like when the day I write and how long. And I'm not super, haven't been super great with whatever, but you can see I started this project back in 2022 and that seems like a very long time to write, but I had How to Marry a Major. I had started working on this when I had finished How to Marry a Major, and How to Marry a Major was out on submission for 2 years. Like basically I finished it in 2022, and I had it out with editors and publishing houses to see if anybody would want to traditionally publish it. So that's why this one looks like it took so long or whatever. And then there'll be breaks in here too when I was like working on How to Marry a Major, like doing the edits and all that kind of stuff. So there's like gaps in time where I didn't work on this at all. So one of the things I'll do is I will note what I was doing. Like this is Courtney. She did writing sprints. I don't think she does anymore, but at the time she was doing writing sprints on YouTube, and a bunch of people do that. You could basically Google writing sprints or write-ins or something like that on YouTube and find like live write-ins, or you can watch recorded ones if you'd like to do that too. So I would basically what I did is I would track stuff like this might be this 4/7. I forgot to put the starting time down, but I basically track how long it took me to write so many words or whatever. And I don't have a lot of big chunks of time, but on average, like this is a good example here on 4/13, I wrote 302 words and it took me 20 minutes. And that's about right. It takes me about I write 10 words a minute, basically, if stuff's flowing. I'll write more or less. Here's 398 at 25. But on average, it's like 100 words in 10 minutes is kind of how I do. So I already know then how long it's going to take me to write a book. So if I really cared, I would back into it. I don't do that. I kind of look and see like if stuff's taking me long. Like here's where I was working on stuff, but this is from Word Weavers and they're my critique group. And so I'll note if I added words or took them away, or like in this case, nothing. So I'll do that. And then down here, I've got Writers and Garden once a week. That group has a write-in for like an hour, almost an hour. And I got 81 words in. I'll write on the craft circle that Writers and Garden also hosts sometimes. HB. Oh, that's a Heart Breathings write-in. So Sarah Cannon runs Heart Breathings and they have a schedule and they have write-ins almost all day, every day. So you could go in and that's on YouTube. Romance Writers Club is a Facebook group and they have write-ins on, actually, if I look at this, see, you can see here, like here's five I kind of finished. So this is when I started working on other projects. Probably I was writing other things and I didn't pick this back up until for almost 2 years later. So, and it looks like a good chunk of my words came in maybe there. So basically that's just me adding in like the grading, adding in the what I did and stuff like that. So I've got different critiques from the critique group. This is where I made the hero's mother did time in Bell. Why can't I think of it? Bellum. Anyway, she was they thought she was crazy. She wasn't, but they thought she was. And so there's just other things that I went ahead and tracked over here so I would know. Here's some writing I did during the Spring Forward retreat. Layering. This is where I started prepping it for Sandra, and like I removed the felts. I have to go back and now remove nose as well, like he knew, because that's not DPOV. So that's kind of one of her ticks. It's a tick of mine, but it's something that she spots and is like, you gotta get rid of this. So so that's kind of what that looks like. I'm gonna close that down, and then I will come back over here and we'll go back to the presentation. Just double check, make sure I didn't have any more comments. No. Okay. So, all right. So we said you have a schedule and then track your writing. So these are what I'm talking about, like here again, isn't that you need to schedule out your writing, but you need to understand how much time you have available. And if you track your writing, you can really drill down into like how much time it's going to take you to write a book, if you want to figure that out, or edit or layer or whatever parts of the process that you're working on. Now, if you are not a planner or a plotter, you might want to create ritual instead, so that you can, like, if you like to write when the muse strikes, then you also want to track like where you're writing. That's why I have those notes on there. And I found out a few manuscripts ago that I wrote more on writing sprints with other people than I do when I'm just by myself. So, but what you want to do is you want to write in the same location. So if you write in a coffee shop, you want to, and that's where you get the most words, you want to write in a coffee shop. You want to, I usually write in my office, but I have written at the lake, at the airport. I've I used to write in coffee shops when I had a Monday through Friday job. I would go there and write. And wherever you're getting the most words, or wherever you feel like it's flowing, maybe it's not even the most words, but you're not sitting there struggling for words, then you want to do that. Write in the same way. If you write on your laptop, that's what you want to do. And if you write on paper and pen and paper, do that. If you write on an Alpha Smart or one of these others where you can only just see a little bit of the screen, and that's working for you to get words on the page, do that. Light candles or play music if that helps, and then be consistent with it. Maybe drink the same beverage if you always have coffee when you write, or tea, or water, or a favorite smoothie, or whatever it is. But you want to basically stay consistent. You're tricking your brain to be creative when you are waiting for the muse to strike. But if the muse striking, you create all these rituals around it, then just do that when you have time, not necessarily when the mood strikes, because you'll be better at getting the words on the page if you can create ritual around your writing. Because too, it's sort of creating this sacred space in which you can write. So that's one thing. Now, another thing that can happen is you could end up with writer's block. And writer's block can be a couple things. Like you're so overwhelmed. Like I'm literally overwhelmed with the amount of edits I have to do on this book. And so that will block me. So I have to use all these little tricks in my trick bag, my little writer kit bag, of being able to get words on the page. So some stuff you're just not going to, if you've had a death in the family, if you've moved, if you've had a baby, if you've got a new job and the schedule, you haven't lined out what the schedule is going to be with your whatever, or any number of things, you just have a lot of stuff, then you can get blocked just by sheer overwhelmness. And if you're in crisis for any one of those other things, you're just not going to be able to write. And don't even try to write. Get through the crisis, get through the new work schedule, get through whatever events that you've got going on that are like taking up your time, get through that, and then look and see if you're still having issues. And some of the things that have helped me in the past is I normally write on my Chromebook. But if I'm not able to write on my Chromebook, what I'll do is I will go ahead and mix up my style, which means I will go ahead and take pen to paper and I will write. And a lot of times out at the airport, when we're working, that is how I will write. I will kind of have an idea of what the next scene is, and then I'll write that. The other thing I can suggest is if you have a scene in your head, but you've been writing chronologically, don't do this all the time if it like weirds you out. But if you write chronologically, like beginning to end, maybe mix up the scenes. Like you have an idea for a really good fight scene and you can see it clearly in your head, write it down either on your laptop or in a notebook, wherever, because you've got that scene ready to play, because you're having a very hard time writing the meet cute, or maybe it's a love scene or something like that. Just skip whatever scene you can't work on and move on to the next one. And I didn't finish a book fast until I did this. Once I learned to like juggle up scenes when I could write them or felt like writing them. Like sometimes what I'll do is I will write the key scenes and I have to go back later and transition everything. Like I have to put in transitional paragraphs. But the thing is I got closer to the end, just skipping over that transition. Because for me, that's very hard to transition from, my heroine just got fired from her job into the meet cute. I'll just go straight to the meet cute and then I'll transition that sentence or maybe cut the chapter off or whatever. But I can't see it until I'm all the way through that rough draft, and I'm looking down at it and I can say, oh, okay, this needs to be whatever. And that's what I'll do, is I'll read that rough draft and see where stuff has to be filled in and stuff like that. So if you don't like schedules, create a schedule. Try and see if maybe that's part of the overwhelming process, is you haven't blocked off the times where you can't write versus the times you are able to write. You think you have the whole month of June or whatever, but in my case, I know that I have 3 days like just this week that I can't, and I got 2 days next week because I have doctor's appointments and other things, and I just know that I'm not going to be up for doing anything on those days. Like next weekend I have an eye appointment. I'm probably going to get the injections in my eyes again, and I know that I'm just not going to want to. I don't like to sit in front of the TV or the computer. I'm going to want to lay down and rest those eyes, right? So I have to understand these are times I'm not going to be able to work. Or if you are very scheduled and you haven't, that's feeling too clinical to you, too much like work, then create a ritual, like make a space for yourself and light the candles and play some music and join a write-in. If you haven't been doing that, try joining a write-in. And whether that's going to a physical actual write-in, which there are some, or if it's me doing one of these ones online, try that and see if it helps. A lot of times, Monday through Friday, I am on write-in days with Romance Writers Club, and I'm usually do all my work and stuff like that. The other thing for me is I have a couple of rituals that I always do. I always do my morning pages before I write, and that's a technique by Julia Cameron, where you basically journal 3 pages longhand. And for me, I don't quite do that. I do about 2, sometimes 3, and I don't do it in an 8.5 by 11. I do it in a much smaller journal, like whatever journal. This is my current journal, whatever journal I feel like. But ever since I've got that tendinitis, I've kind of just like reduced the number of pages that I do. But it does help me get all the junk out of my brain so that I can work in a creative space. That's one thing. The other thing is I always take the first 25 minutes, because I do a lot of VA, virtual assistance work for other people. And I will check all my email if I have projects coming up for them, or their email. I also access a lot of their email. I manage the email accounts. So I'll do that. And then that takes about the first 30 minutes. And then after that, I'm writing or editing or working on my own stuff so that I'm getting that done. And then the other thing is, for me, usually I clean up this space right before this call because I want it to look nice for all of you. But if you have a lot of clutter and you can't find the tools that you need, like I have right now, 3 books that I packed with me, actually. If you look at my Instagram account, if you follow me on Instagram, you can see pictures from our open house. But I brought Georgette Heyer's Regency World, a Romance Writers Phrase book, and the Emotional Thesaurus with me to the open house, because I was able to write later in the afternoon after the lunch. And so what I'll do is I will go ahead and have the tools that I need. But if my space is in chaos, it's very hard for me to find stuff. So if you're really struggling, maybe create the space or clean the space that you normally write in. So this is a pretty short presentation. I mean, if you guys have any questions about anything. So, oh, look we got people. Okay. So Coffee, Create, Connect, Join. Need to get some editing done before I have to run out, but want to pop in and leave a comment and like. Thank you so much. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Stop screen. Okay, there we go. And then what else did Coffee, Create, Connect say? She said, I will catch the replay later tonight. I'm going to save it for my watch list later. Thank you so much. So, and then Barb asked if I was going to be at the Moorhead Friends Writing Group event tomorrow. And I am not, because I have a graduation to go to. So we were just talking about things that are, make you busy or whatever. So like just this month alone, so we had our open house, I have a graduation, I have an anniversary party, I have my anniversary, I have my grandson's birthday party, and I think that's it. And then I have like my normal, like I'm on the quarterly cycle of whatever doctor appointments I have. So I think the next Morehead Friends writing group event I will be at will be I think it might be the Brewhalla one. So whenever that one is, because that's an evening one. So I think I might make that, unless by some miracle we are already working. So I usually am tied up with work. It's hit and miss. Like we are the opposite of school teachers in two ways. We work in the summer and we work weekend, almost exclusively weekends. And I think what it is I think that farmers will not give us jobs until they know they can't do the jobs themselves. And then when the weekend rolls around, much like we do and everyone else, there's events over the weekend. So there begin some weekends, like my grandson's birthday party, that I won't be able to work just because I won't. I don't know if my husband will or not, but we'll be going down to the cities for his party. And so those are the kinds of things, but that we are almost always scheduled to work on the weekend. And so Monday through Thursday, usually we're kind of waiting around for work. So, unless it rains. If it rains or the winds are really high, we're not working. So then I can do events, and it really sucks because I'm unable to like plan a schedule. So some of the things that I do is I'll go ahead and have like this Kanban board of all the task lists. And as time becomes available, I will simply go ahead and just pull one off and say, okay, I got 30 minutes and I can do this one. So that's where, when you get into writing, or if you're like me and you're doing multiple newsletters and checking mail for multiple, doing the virtual assistance work, if you're doing that and you know how long it's going to take you, then you can just pull one off. So, but every time somebody gives me a task, it like goes on a sticky note and it goes on the board. So then I can kind of keep track of it. So just for your information, there we go. So this is how it works. Pink is me, Tina Holland stuff. Blue is health stuff, personal events. Orange, Major Ken's flying service. Purple, Writers and Garden. Yellow, Bizman Writers Guild. Green, Morehead Friends Writing Group. So that's how I so if you can kind of look and you can kind of see, there's a lot of pink and blue up there right now, and there's some yellow and green. So the purple gets done pretty quick. So that's kind of how I manage my task list. So I'll literally make a note, put it on a sticky, put it up on the board, and then put a deadline date or whenever it was assigned to me. Those are the two dates that go on there. And then when I have a break in my day or whatever, because usually when I'm writing, I will write, and then I try and get most of these projects done before I write. So I'll do my Tina Holland projects, and then intermingled, I will do the other VA projects that I've got. So that's kind of how I manage that system. So another one here. Yeah, so like Barb says, I just take advantage when the opportunity happens. Exactly, because what else are you going to do? So, and the weird thing is that I was always a pantser. Like I always wrote when the mood struck me, and I wrote when I just felt like it. Like, oh, I got an idea for a scene, and I would go and write it, which I think you should do. If you are a pantser and that is your process, take advantage of it. So, but also try and trick your brain into, like, if you wrote a scene and you know how many words you wrote, or you know that it felt really good to get all those words, what was the environment in which that happened? And that's what I've done. I've tricked my brain into saying, well, these are when you tend to write the fastest. If I write with Romance Writers Group or the Monday Creative Commute or Craft Circle or whatever, and then we get done with the sprints and they're like, how did you do? and it can be anything from that felt really good to get it out, or I wrote X amount of words, or I edited X amount of chapters, or I got this one task list, I got my blog post done, I've got my newsletter done, I did these things. And so there's also, for me, there's that built-in accountability without the pressure of making it feel so much like work or whatever. So that's how I do it. I just basically have tricked my brain into making it work for me. So when I worked in a corporate office, I didn't do this. This was a very popular thing too, but I started off as a pantser, and now I'm more of a plotzer. Like, even for the writing part of it, I have a template now that I follow. And part of that is so I just don't wander off into the weeds and tell you about John's fourth cousin who was married to the evil queen or whatever it is. I just can stay on task. So I will put some links up below for some of you that might be interested in some of the stuff that we talked about today. But if you don't have any other questions, and it doesn't look like we do, I will just put up the banner here for next First Friday lunch. Like I said, it's kind of a short one today. So, or not really, 30 minutes. So the next First Friday lunch is going to be on, let's see if I can get this here. Hide that. Is going to be July 4th. So maybe I'll see you, maybe I won't. I suspect that could end up being it could end up being a recorded video, but it'll go live at 11:30 on July 4th. So I will see you then. So go ahead and pencil me in. I got another comment here. Oh, Barb, great show. You're welcome, Barb. So, go ahead and pencil me in for lunch.